Hello and welcome everyone to today's chat and chew. Hi to all my lunch dates. It is your certified holistic nutritionist, Vanisha Cobbs-Myers, here to bring you empowerment through education support so that you can better advocate for your health. Today's chat and chew is sponsored by Modern Health and Beauty, where professionals are bridging the gap in today's healthcare with integrative services to help you get to the root of the problem. Now, I am super excited because we have a mindset coach who is a speaker, an author, and also has a phenomenal nonprofit. And of course, my dear friend, Miss Crystal Brooks. And she is coming to talk to us today about the difference between red flags and triggers and knowing how to identify those red flags and triggers. So strap on your seatbelt, get your drink, your food, and let's get to the nitty gritty. Hi to all my beautiful All right, yes, more people coming in the room. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you can go ahead and mute. Hi, beautiful. If you can go ahead and mute so that we don't have any disruptions while I interrogate Crystal, get as much information for you all as possible while we have her. Also wanted to leave you with this study. I recently, of course, did some research on the correlation, the impact of mental wellness, as well as how it influences our nutrition. And believe it or not, I want to leave you with this thought. There was an NIH study in 2022 where it spoke of depression being a highly prevalent disease affecting more than 350 million people and has recently been associated with chronic inflammation. The role of our diet in the development of pro-inflammatory state was demonstrated in a recent study that found a high dietary inflammatory index score associated with increased concentration of circulating plasma of inflammatory markers. And I wanted to give that information to you all because, of course, as we talk about red flags and triggers, those do tend to be exposed when we're dealing with depression, right? And how we show up for ourselves in the world, how we communicate with others and connect with others. So without further ado and without further delay, please help me welcome Miss Crystal Brooks. All right. Yes, yes, air hands, air applause. We're going to go ahead and get started. Crystal, can you tell me, I have my questions aside, can you tell me what brought you to being so passionate about mental wellness?
Oh, child, where do I even start with that? So, um, what made me passionate, honestly, was what I went through just growing up and different
Mm-hmm.
trials and tribulations that I actually went through and what I wish I
Mm-hmm.
had. And so, as I went further into my healing journey and things that I needed, I knew women, and now, of course, men, but women needed to know that they are okay and they're not crazy, right? And that for me, I think the biggest piece, honestly, was to understand and to help other women understand this journey and what it looks like. So that's what really started me to get into it. But again, because of my background, so I don't know, you want me to go a little bit deeper with what I went through so they can kind of know who I am?
I
Or
mean,
do
it's
you
up to you if you choose to. We here till one, so
okay,
yeah, if
make it
you
quick.
choose
I'm gonna make that part
to.
quick. So I am a survivor of physical abuse, sexual abuse, mental abuse. Okay. At the early age of 5 years old. My dad was physically abusive to me from fourth grade to my senior year of high school. I had to put on a facade just growing up that, oh, everything is great. I'm wonderful, had good grades in school, and nobody knew what was happening at home. My mom was the first Black female police officer on Capitol Hill. But for me, I was protecting her. She didn't know all the things that were happening because she was working. She's protecting congressmen, senators, and presidents. So why would this little girl burden her mother with that? But the question is, why did I have my mindset at such a young age to feel like I needed to protect my mother? Shouldn't she protect me? So that's when I say it goes deeper. So I want to give y'all a little bit of that.
Okay. So speak to that because one thing that stood out to me was that jumped at me was imprisonment. Like we create this mental space that doesn't allow us to really show up as our authentic self, right? And when we don't address these things, this level of imprisonment can or bondage can go well into adulthood. So speak a little bit more to that regard, how, the importance of being able to identify these things within ourselves so that we can begin to do the work to come out of this.
So you just said it right there. The important part is to actually identify, not being
Mhm.
afraid to identify that thing. So what we do often, we put on a mask, we act like everything is okay. We continue on in life just being and not actually healing from our past traumas. Now, I'm not saying everybody's trauma has to be as deep as mine was. However, something triggered something early on in your life, which then made you into who you are today. So for me, I didn't have a voice. By me being sexually molested at the age of 5 years old, my voice was taken from me. But why didn't I speak up? So then it goes deeper, it goes into generational things. What do we see growing up? Is this something that was embedded in us that we never even knew about? How do we go there? So also, dang, we need more time. Also with that, um, your parents may not have told you what they have gone through. So it just goes
Mhm.
over to you, and then the cycle continues until somebody breaks the cycle. I was a cycle breaker. I opened my mouth. When I wrote my book, I told everything. And I was so free from sharing that. And what happened? My family came back. Oh my God, thank you for sharing. I didn't know. Let me tell you what happened to me. Well, why you ain't say nothing before? And that's what
Okay.
happens. So imprisonment starts before us. It's generational, if you want to go
Yeah.
that deep.
Yeah. So really what isn't transformed is literally transferred, right?
Yes.
From generation to generation. So two words that stood out to me in this is exposure, you bringing light to your situation. And I'm not talking about an exposure where you are, you know, unveiling all other people's secrets, but exposure in a sense that, okay, what is going on with me? Identifying what's going on in me, that level of vulnerability and transparency within yourself. How did that help you with dealing with your triggers? First, let me not get ahead of myself. Let's talk about what triggers are. Is it a negative or positive thing? And then bring that back.
So triggers can be negative or positive. It depends on what that trigger is, right? So I'm going to read you something that I pulled up just in general so you all can understand what a trigger is. So a trigger is an event. It can be a sound, a sight, smell, or touch that basically pulls up an emotional response from you, right? So it could be an emotional trigger as far as like a memory will pop up from a trigger. So let's say if somebody said a word or touched you in a certain spot, it's like, hold up, something has triggered inside of you. Now you feel an emotion with that thing, right? And so again, it can be happy or sad. It can be unpleasant or it can feel great, right? It just depends on what that thing is. Now, let me go into red flag because I can go to a red flag.
Well, let's not
Okay.
address red flags just yet because I wanted to kind of focus a lot more because triggers tend to have a negative connotation with it. But I wanted to highlight how do you turn that trigger, which
Mhm.
may have a negative connotation to it, into a stepping stone that will allow you to move forward towards your healing.
Okay. So I will give you an example. When it comes to triggers, once you identify what that trigger is, now we're going to have to do the work to make it not a trigger, make it not an unpleasant trigger, right? So here's an example. I had a client who she was on her weight loss journey, and she just did not like healthy food, like at all, right? It just made her sad. I'm like, oh, it's food, right? But if she saw McDonald's, she got excited. And I'm like, all right, let's go deeper. why are you so excited about McDonald's? Because I go deep on everything. Well, why are you so excited about McDonald's? Like, what is McDonald's? She's like, I don't know. I said, no. Did you have McDonald's a lot growing up? Who was associated with that McDonald's? It was her mother. That was the only time she had quality time with her mother was McDonald's. That brought her joy. Anything outside of that was just mediocre. It didn't matter. It didn't mean anything. So for her trigger was this food. This was time with my mom. This is where she found comfort. Even though McDonald's is not good to have every day, right? But it wasn't about the food, it was about the thing that was attached to that. So now that carried on throughout her life, but it also hindered her because of her weight. Does that make sense? So a trigger
Absolutely.
can be it can be a bad thing or positive, right? But in that space, it kept her in bondage of her weight because she was holding on to this thing that reminded her of her mother. So now how do we replace that? Well, let's go talk to your mom. Let's find out why was this the only time that we spent time together when it was just McDonald's. Once we get to that and really dig into those issues, then she can release McDonald's. Not about McDonald's. It was about her spending time with her mom. But why was that the only time she had with her mom? It goes deeper than food.
So that's good. That's good. Two things I want to address with this because it does speak back to that pro-inflammatory diet we
Yes.
were talking about in the depression, right? Because you're in this cycle that you can't break. You want to get out of it, but you can't, right? But this is the thing. I want to highlight and I want you to add to that's breakthrough doesn't have to have that party, that other party. It can happen because suppose that person passes, right? So if that person doesn't have the ability to talk to that loved one, they still have it within themselves to break through, to be able to move beyond. So can you kind of just give a idea of just one, I don't want you to give a whole session out here, but give an idea of what is that starting point to be able to break through that trigger and turn it to work for you and not against you.
So you already know the thing that I love to talk about is my lovely tree. And I'll give that tree example all the time. I think it works well with forgiveness, unforgiveness, all of that. So I have you all draw a tree. So you have your the bark of the tree. And I'm not a drawer. I can't, my tree, it looks crazy, okay? But you have the bark of the tree, you have the bushes around what it was the trees, you have your branch, right? And you have your leaves, right? So that bark is used. You're going to put your name on that bark, right? On that branch, you're going to write out whoever it is that you need to forgive, have a conversation with, whatever that is, right? And then you're going to draw your leaves. On your leaves, you're going to put exactly what they did. That's very
Mm-hmm.
important. What happens is because we put so much in the back, once you start writing, all the things will come out. I have a lot of clients that tell me, no, I forgave everybody. I don't need to talk about nothing. Forget them people. Okay, just write it down. When you actually start to do this tree, it's going to trigger an emotion. It's going to trigger an event that came up that you didn't talk about. It's going to trigger dang, I never told her how I felt. Now, you may not be able to ever go back to that person, but you're getting it out. Now you're taking it out of your system. Now it's on paper. Now I can help you with the next step into
Right.
forgiveness and into healing and all the other things that you have to work on. But I want to say something else. I know I said that you all are the bark of the tree, but a lot of you need to put your name on the branch as well, on things that you have done to yourself
Mm-hmm.
in the process of your journey. Because we do a lot of
Mm-hmm.
things to ourselves, y'all. So you got to be real about that. And then have a conversation with yourself. How do you heal yourself? Because the healing is going to start with you first. Why did you lose your voice? Why did you accept certain things from people you should not have accepted? What
Mm-hmm.
have you done to yourself to make you the way that you are? So, accountability for yourself is where you actually have to start.
That's interesting because I read this book by James Allen and he says, I literally just posted it. He says, your inner world is a reflection of your outer.
That part.
And that's so deep. That's so deep because literally I know people who have this perception of pessimism. That's what governs their lives. And they're so isolated. And, it just really speaks to how they view and how they connect with people, or the disconnect, you know. So that's interesting you said that. Okay. So I want to know this because this is one of my questions. I have my list of questions. And please, if you all have questions, please put in the chat. If we have time, I definitely want to take the opportunity to ask her if we did, again, if we do have time. What are the top observations you notice with men and women clients to keep them from making transformations in their life?
Their mindset. Their mindset.
Okay.
I'm gonna be honest. Because if you have a fixed mindset, you're just like, nothing will ever change. It won't work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. And it's like, yo, wait a minute. Did you try? Did you want to
Right.
try? But where did that come from? Once I'm able to get them to see that things can change, but your mindset has to shift. And so there are steps that we will have to take to get them to understand that and to see that. But that part takes work. So your mindset. So here's another example of your mindset, right? So if you have been disappointed so much in your life and you feel like you will never have happiness ever, your mind is going to be strictly focused on it's not going to happen. Life is horrible. Everything is horrible. But what are you going to attract? Everything that's horrible, because your mindset is only focused on the horrible thing.
Seek and you shall find.
Yes, but the moment you're like, you know what? Today is a good day. Today is a good day. Today is going to be a great day. All of a sudden, you see all the great things. And it's like, yo, I didn't know it could be that way. Yes. Because now your mind is like, oh, we shifted? Okay, well, let me look at the sun shining. Look at the trees over here. Look at the people that are smiling at you today. That's the difference. It's all on what you say, how you train your mind. But if your mind is literally focused on negative, 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 that's all you're going to see. You're only going to attract negativity because that's what you're focused on. The minute
And
you
experience that.
yeah.
Wow. 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 Talk to me about red flags. I want to have this conversation about red flags and knowing the difference. And can red flags be used? How do we turn red flags to be used for our good?
Okay. Red flags, y'all. Intuition. Intuition. Okay. So again, I love to give examples and I love to give fun ones. I don't want to be all heavy and deep, right? Okay. Let's say you meet a guy. We'll go there. You meet a guy. Everything is great. And in this conversation, he's telling you, well, something is not so heavy. He doesn't like to clean. I'll go something light, right? He doesn't like to clean. And you're like, oh, okay. He don't like to clean. 6 months later, you go to his house. House is disgusting. Well, he already told you he don't like to clean.
You got people
That's a
shaking
red
their heads up here.
flag. He already told you that. So isn't that a red flag? He told you that. If that's something that's a non-negotiable for you, why are you sitting there if he told you he don't like to clean? Now, we can go deeper. If a man has told you he cheats on every single person he's ever been with, and then you shocked that when he cheat on you, why are you shocked? He told you that he cheats on every person that he's been with, right? So, red flag. There are so many red flags that pop up in any situation. When you feel something inside of you that's like, that's not right. Well, no, it's okay. Here's another thing people do. If we're talking about God for a second, God, give me a sign. Tell me if I'm supposed to be doing this thing. You get the sign, smack that in your face. What you say? No, not that sign. Give me something else. No, not that one. It's another one you will show me. Then another sign comes. Well, you ask for the sign. You're not paying attention. So a red flag is not as deep as a trigger, but a red flag is testing your intuition. Always trust it, always listen to it. Okay. That's very, very important. Don't be afraid to walk away from situations. It's dangerous situations. It could be something good. I don't know. But a red flag is a red. That's why it's a red flag. Red. Pay
Yeah.
attention.
Yeah. That's good. So as you were saying, a few things were coming to mind. Of course, the symbolism of red flag is, hey, I need help, is to bring attention to, right? That's what that red flag is. So if you don't, the thing about this though is a lot of times we don't listen, whether it's to ourselves or to that person to be able to notice that, hey, this is a red flag. Because one thing, and this is interesting, I actually, when I was married, I always go back to all the signs were there, right? All the signs were there, but I end up trivializing them, okay, because it wasn't happening to me. But they were actually red flags. They were like, no, I don't like this. But I somehow kind of in my mind made it okay because it wasn't happening to me. And so the interesting aspect of it is identifying that behavior as a red flag and then separating your emotions to a standpoint where you can think logically. Now, is this a character trait, that I want to see in this person? Because if you think about it, again, I don't want to neglect the hormonal aspect out of it. That is your fight or flight. That is your adrenals. Those, if you ignore those things in the long run, these things will be the things that stress you out in a relationship, whether it be with somebody, a partner, a friend, they will stress you out. So you're really bringing on this, effect or impact on yourself by not addressing these issues. So of course, it is intuition, but it also is you being able to identify how this is, impacting you without actually you being the target of that
Absolutely. So I will say
circumstance.
it causes a huge impact on you. So what happened to me, I was married before too. I am remarried now, but there were a gazillion signs that I'm like, nope, I was a fixer. I'm like, I can fix them.
Mm,
Everything will be great because I have the secret sauce. You ain't got the
mm.
daggone secret sauce, girl. That ain't none of your business. Mind your business. As you move forward, mind your business. Okay. We cannot fix everything and everyone. But what happens is because I'll speak for me, because the trauma that I went through, I am seeking validation from a person that I think should love me how I want to be loved. So now I'm like, well, I'm going to do whatever it takes. And he has these issues, but it's okay because I can fix that because he's going to see the value in me. What? Why are we doing that? But what happened? You're busy trying to fix him, her, whoever. You focus on your kids too much. And I'm not saying don't take care of your kids. I have 3 kids. I'm not saying that. But you have to put you first because if you don't, for me, my hair started falling out. My mental space started just going because I was doing too much for other people and putting myself last. And when you do that, it affects your hormones. Everything is out of whack, whether you gain weight, you lose weight, you lose your hair. I mean, the stress, you get all wrinkled and just all the things happen.
You start to
And you're
feel
like,
discomforts in your body.
yes. And that's the thing because we hold on to so much internally because we don't talk about
Mm-hmm.
it. So now your knees
Mm-hmm.
hurting, your arm hurting all of a sudden, your eyeball hurting, you got these headaches. Where these headaches come from?
Twitches in your eyes.
Right. Your toes starting to hurt. It's like, ugh. And here's another thing. Be careful what you say out of your mouth. The things that you speak will
Come
start to
on.
happen to you. Okay. So when you keep saying somebody getting on your last nerve, all of a sudden your nerves start jumping and twitching. Stop saying that. Speak
Mm-hmm.
life. I don't care what is happening. And I know life be life and we just know what it is. But when you start to change how you speak, I promise you things will be so much different. You will attract better. Your mind will be better. Those aches will start to go away because you're speaking positive to a negative thing. An activity that I give, and I'll give you all this. I know time is basically gone. I'll give you this with your mindset, how to start to shift your mindset. I want you to get a piece of paper. You're going to write down 7 negative things that you say that comes in your mind. So whether it's yourself, other people, those negative thoughts. So let's say that negative thought there, boom. Right under that, you're going to put a positive. So let's say I'm not beautiful. Your positive thought that you're going to write under that is, I am beautiful in all ways, blah, 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 right? So you're going to do 7. So total 14 things. Now, once you get to that, I want every day you're going to say the negative, positive, every day for 7 days. On the 7th day, you're going to erase that negative thought off that paper, and you're only going to say the positive. You have now retrained your mind to stop that negative thought because you have fed it with positive. So now your mind is like, oh, what's that? Nope. Because then you don't throw in a positive. It has no room for that negative to be there. Very important. Hey, y'all.
This is good. Hey, hey, hey. Please, I do want to apologize for those who are having a hard time getting on. I was sitting here trying to make sure people got it because this is good information. I wanted people to definitely have this. So I will make this a replay for those who did come late. So before we leave, let me bring up my last question, love, because I want to make sure that we understand the difference between the trigger and the red flag, right? And how we can make sure that we can use these as stepping stools or tools to help us grow. Okay, so we talked about red flags, but how do we identify and other people, but how do we identify our red flags within ourselves? And that is where I want to end with.
How do you identify red flags within yourself?
Yes.
Be positive with yourself. Look in the mirror and say, hey, what am I doing? What am I saying that is a red flag to other people, right? What areas do I need to work on in my life that could be a red flag to other people? So if you're negative Nancy, if you're negative Johnny all the time, figure out why you're always so negative. But this is going to take you being honest with yourself. And I don't think people are always ready for honesty with yourself because we easily point the finger at everybody else for everything that they have done to us. But what about you? What have you done to people? Are you toxic? Sometimes we can be toxic with our words, with our actions, with how we interact with people every day. But you put a mask over it and say, well, they did this to me. No, nobody should ever be able to control your feelings, your emotions. You are now giving them too much power over you. But let's go deeper. Why are you giving them that power? Where did you lose your voice where you felt like your power can be handed over so easily to other people? Why did you do that? So those are some of the questions you have to start asking yourself. But again, I'm being so real when I say you have to have those tough conversations with yourself. Why do you sugarcoat everything with yourself? You will never get better if you keep being your own yes man. Why?
That's good. That's good. You got 5 more minutes? 5 more
Yes.
minutes. Okay, okay. This is good because it made me think of how people are biased, right, with this. So they'll give themselves grace in the same circumstance, but won't give the person outside of themselves grace. So let's say we're gonna make it universal. Let's say cleaning up the house. Okay. We want to put children in the mix or put a spouse in the mix and say, all right, I asked them, could they do this? Could they help out the unit and clean this area up? They didn't do it. Now we all bent out of shape. However, we'll say, okay, I'll task myself with that same thing, but we don't get to it that day. Mm-hmm. But now we have all these thoughts in our head, these justifications of why we didn't do it. So how do we navigate that space? Because it really, I mean, with almost everything, when there's confrontation or conflict, I notice that is the issue. How do we stay neutral in that?
Child, you gotta humble yourself.
That's
You have
good.
to humble yourself.
What does that look like though?
Simply was 2 things. First of all, giving grace and taking a moment to be like, girl, you ain't do it either. Chill out. But that's having that real conversation. Oh, I'm sorry. And the guy, man, you ain't do it either, right? You didn't focus on that either, but you getting upset with them for something that you didn't do. That goes back into life. If you didn't finish that project, but you thought somebody else was going to do that project, you ain't do it either. So why is it that you're giving them such a hard time, but you're not giving yourself a hard time? Do you want to be treated how you're treating them? That's what the grace comes in at. It's very, we can be, again, I go back to, we can be so hard on others because we're not ready to reflect on ourselves. So now we're pushing it outward. That's projecting. You're projecting onto them what you actually should have done and what you should have been doing. So forget the kids, forget the husband. What were you supposed to do? If you wanted this done, it could have been done. You could have did, you could have paid somebody, whatever it is. Well, why are you putting so much pressure on them? Is that pressure that's really on yourself, but you're projecting onto them? So again, going back to those honest conversations, why is it such a big deal for you to be so angry and so upset with them for not doing something that you could have done too? Let's go back to the beginning of the conversation that we've been having. Was that a trigger for you? Why is the house not clean? Is it something that didn't happen, that happened to you in your past where certain things should have happened and it happened in a timely fashion? So you got yelled at. Now we're talking about cycles and generational things, right? So it all ties back together. But the key piece, honestly, is to have a real conversation with yourself and stop like tripping out all the time. But let's go deeper again. Why are you going so far? Why are you so angry? It's something on, because nobody can tell me that cleaning this house should make you that angry. And I know we're just using that universal thing. But if something has your emotions so jacked up like that, something's missing. Something you have done, or something you have not done has not taken place. So your healing journey has to start, because if not, you're going to project onto other people when you should take a reflection of yourself and see what you need to work on. Now, this whole thing, nobody is ever perfect. There are going to be times when we are going to just flick off, right? But in that moment, be like, hold on, girl, you got to check yourself. Hold on. Why did I just do that? What happened? Was it that deep? So now you need to take a self inventory of why you did that. And it takes time, that takes growth. Please don't think that what I'm telling you happens overnight, because it does not. But it's going to come from a person that's willing to change, that really wants to be better in all areas of their life. But in order to be better, you have to start with yourself, and then you can go to the outside people, because you may not get the answer to that thing that you want to answer to. You may not get the apology that you want, but is that going to change who you are because you're going to get the apology? Or are you going to forgive that person? So it's so many steps, but the first thing is yourself.
Okay. So if I can, of course we can't cookie cut this, right? We can't do that. However, takeaways I got from you, and please add on. One, listen to your voice, your feelings, those thoughts in your head. Of course, others outside of ourselves, right? And believe it or not, I don't want to skate over that, because a lot of people underestimate or don't even put a lot of attention on listening and communicating. But definitely listening. And then also, again, communicating from a standpoint of talking to make it clear to you.
Yes.
I think for me, I don't want to beat a dead horse with journaling, but whenever I had confrontation, I would start to write down, and I felt uneasy about how it ended. I would start to write down, well, what part did I play in it? Did I show up as my best self? Because I definitely want to show up as my best self. And as we tend to reflect on things, we can say, oh, I apologize, I didn't show up, blah, blah, but the damage is already done to that person, that they have to work through that stuff. So being able to write that stuff down also kind of helped me moving forward be more as what be the person that moment needed. So 3 things that they can listening. Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I know, I just want to add something. You said something very important when you said I. Those I statements are very important. I takes the negative tone out when you're speaking to somebody, right? So I know you're talking about journaling, but when you go to somebody and say, you did this and you did that and that, then it's like, okay, now they're ready to fight because you keep doing that. But when you have your conversation, you would say, I heard you say, so I want to make sure that I understood that you said this, right? Now you're putting it on yourself, because you want to make sure that you're trying to understand and hear clearly what they said. If you go to somebody rah all the time, their defenses are up. Okay. So making sure that that's how you take accountability for any situation. It can calm down any situation. But of course, journaling, I'm queen of journal all day, get your thoughts out. But I think if you all focus on the I statement, it will help you in so many areas as well, because it's not always, again, pointing the finger at somebody. Just make sure you understood it clearly.
Yeah. Okay. 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 And lastly, I know I'm pushing it.
It's fine. Listen, I don't know why you ain't just do an hour. You know how we go. I'm just saying, but
Okay.
okay.
Yes, I know. Trigger the difference between if they are not looking at other people's red flags and they want to show up better in their next relationship or with their friends, they want to be a better version of themselves. How can they identify their triggers between their red flags?
Oh, identifying triggers between red flags for themselves. I just want to make sure I
For
understand.
themselves, because we have red flags too. I mean, there's things, if people are looking at us, we will probably find out if we have the conversation, if we're open enough to have the conversation and receive the feedback, some of the things that we probably need to, some of the areas we need to grow in. So, how do we kind of identify that for ourselves in the moment?
In the moment, I mean, honestly, it's literally taking a pause. And I think,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people want to complicate something that can be a very simple thing to do. Taking a moment
Mm-hmm.
to calm down, to assess the situation and not look at it as always a negative thing, always a trigger. Now, it depends on what's being said though, right? But
Mm-hmm.
an unhealed person will always see the negative in everything. So you have to heal,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
period. There is no getting
Mm-hmm.
around that. And I think that's what people, it's not a magic wand. And I know I keep saying this,
Mm-hmm.
but that's like reality. Until you're actually healed, the trigger is going to be the trigger, the red flag. And, of course, that's the intuition, but paying attention to that because, like the examples we gave earlier, if it's a situation, a guy said something, but you've heard that thing before, but you're just passing over because you want to be the fixer. Well, why is that? Let's heal. Let's go back to the trigger that got you to the place of ignoring a red flag. So that goes back to,
Or for men being the
or for
damsel,
men,
saving the damsel in distress, right? Being that
saving the damsel.
superhero guy.
Yes, men is because there are good guys. There are good guys,
Mm-hmm.
but because we're so used to trauma and drama, if he's not giving that, you're like, what's wrong with him? Something's wrong. He's too perfect. But no, it's because you're used to Johnny that doesn't know how to treat a woman. And so you're not ready for a man that's actually giving you what you have been praying about until you heal.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
It's
healing.
funny that you took that as that approach. Honestly, when I was thinking about that, I took it as manipulation control, which is out of my experience, right? Because the reality of it is, I know someone who's very intimately, who that's the only way they know how to connect with people where there's an issue, and it feeds his uh insecurity, if you will. It feeds his insecurity because he feels like he has a purpose, or he feels desired or wanted. He feels like he has value in that situation. But if there's no discord or going on, then it clashes because he's projecting what he thinks he sees, and that may not be the situation
Right.
you
So he has
know
some unhealed trauma that he needs to deal with. Why is this
right.
thing feeding him to do this, to search for that woman? But the people that come to him are unhealed. So it's a magnet. You're attracting who you are. So he's
You
attracting the
are. That's
unhealed
good.
person.
Hmm.
So it goes hand in hand, but until
Yeah.
he heals,
Yeah.
he's going to keep attracting and vice versa. So again, the biggest thing is to heal, but there are steps to that. And I never want to be in a space where I can give you all the information in the world. I can tell you what to do, how to do it. But your first step is to actually identify and then heal. And those things
Exactly.
take time.
Yeah.
Don't let nobody tell you, girl, get over it. That was 15 years ago. Man, get over it. Man up. Mind your business. Let me do the work. Let me do it.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, it's going to come up later. If you don't deal with it. So here's another thing, anger, right? You be like, oh, I'm at peace. God has fixed me. Let somebody cut you off in traffic. You cussing them out from there all the way to you done went home, talked about the next. I can't believe this, blah, 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 blah. What? Calm
Yeah.
down, right? So you're still angry. Why
Yeah.
are you letting that person that cut you off have that much power over you? They not thinking about you. You're still thinking about that person. That goes hand in hand with anybody else in your life. who is no longer there or who have moved on. That car has moved on. They're at that destination,
Mm-hmm.
and you still thinking about them cutting you off from 3 weeks ago. Why?
Mm-hmm.
You don't even know who it
Mm-hmm.
is. The same thing in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing.
This is so good. I'm
We're
going to
gonna do a
wrap it up
part two.
here
We can do a part
because you graced us with, extra time. How can they connect with you? Can you leave your book link, also your social media information as well
two. Yeah.
in the group chat so that they can go back to it? The group chat will be available for you to connect with Crystal if you choose to. Also, at Modern Health and Beauty, Crystal has partnered up with Modern Health and Beauty to provide mindset coaching because everything starts in the mind. For those who missed the fact, you can go back and listen to the statistic that was highlighted between your mental state and your eating practices. This is very important because there's no isolated events when it comes to your wellness and your health. And so it's very important when we're thinking about the foundation of our health. It plays a part, your hormonal system plays a part in that, and your mindset, your thoughts and your emotions, which create that inner voice, plays an even huge or a bigger impact with that. So wanted to start having this conversation about addressing these red flags and these triggers within ourselves, not so much out with other people, but within ourselves, because as we are able to expose those things within ourselves, we're able to experience life differently. Okay, so thank you so much for coming to this chat and chew. Thank you, Crystal, so very much for your time. Thank you all who came so much for your time and being a part of this space. And remember, if unaddressed, these will create your prison, experiencing, not being able to experience less stress mentally, physically, and emotionally. We are here to help empower you so that you can better advocate for your health. It is by Nisha Cobbs-Myers, your certified holistic nutritionist. And again, I'll see you next time for the chat and show. Take care.